At one point I said, I should just come work for you. I should just come work for the shop. I can help with sales and stuff, but I can put on these bike races. I can do these community events. At this point, I hadn't even realized it was the Smiths 130th anniversary. Like that wasn't even part of it, but I just kind of made this pitch thinking that he was going to say like, oh yeah, that's funny, but there's no way that's not reality. And he instead, was like, actually, I like that idea. I think Randy would like that idea. There's a lot of stuff that we want to do that we just don't have the capacity to put on at the shop. I think this is a really good home for these kind of community events. Randy and Eric are huge on supporting the community. There's no average week for what I do, but I'm really glad we're recording this week because it's such a good example of like the things that I have been up to lately. So
welcome to Trail Effect. I am your host, Josh Blum. Trail Effect is a show that dives into the stories behind trails, the communities that embrace trails, and the people who rely on trails as a way of life. The goal of this show is to turn the stories you will hear from our guests into useful knowledge that can be applied to your community while providing some entertaining and inspirational content. Guests on Trail Effect include trail builders, board members, community leaders, volunteers, and regular people who really enjoy trails. For episode 195, we have Chris Stindt as our guest. Chris is heavily involved with hosting bicycle-related events, all sorts of bicycle-related events. During this conversation, we uncover the value that events bring to communities, and in many ways, these events help build stronger communities. Kwik Creative is the title sponsor for this episode. They design and build custom websites, as well as help companies with branding, photography, and e-commerce. Kwik Creative was started in Wisconsin, but is now based out of Bend, Oregon. Jared from Kwik Creative is a friend of mine. We've traveled together on multiple mountain bike trips, and sometimes he sends it. For more information about Kwik Creative, head on over to www.dudejustsendit.com. Yes, that's right. www.dudejustsendit will get you to the Kwik Creative website, so check it out. Now on to the Trail Effect with Chris Stindt. Here we are today on Trail Effect. I have Chris Stindt. Chris is an employee of Smith's Bike Shop, and we're actually recording this in Smith's Bike Shop, my favorite in-person recording studio, which this will probably be the third. So I've done a lot of non-in-person recordings, but this is the third time we've recorded in Smith's Bike Shop, which is 130 years old this year. Chris is going to tell you about his role at Smith's and his role in the community for hosting events and kind of organizing things that help highlight the La Crosse area and the Driftless region and the things that we know. So how's it going today, Chris?
good, man. I mean, there's probably many great places to host a podcast, but being surrounded by bikes, got the kids' bikes and the mountain bikes behind us. So I think that's always like a nice background. So yeah, welcome to Smith's Bike Shop.
Thank you. I think I've been here before.
Yeah. I think we've seen you a time or two here at the shop.
Yeah.
So my title is, I mean, every job title is kind of made up, but my job title is made up. I'm the operations director. Randy and Eric and I were sitting at Grounded trying to figure out, like, I was already working here for a while. Like, what are we calling you? And, and so I was like, well, operations director. I was like, fantastic. That sounds great. Let's stick it on the business cards. So that's what it says. But yeah, that wasn't like, there's no position description for operations director. I think like the backstory, probably my whole backstory, if I launch into that, I mean, we can edit things as you need to, but yeah, so we moved here in like 2011, 2012. I didn't bike a whole lot. I didn't mountain bike like at all. Didn't have a mountain bike. Didn't really know we had trails. I was a triathlete. I'm just going to go public on the record, admit that I was a triathlete. It's like a longer story than that, but not a good story. So yeah, we moved here. I started riding bikes. I went to EMAG. We have a group of like, well, I used to be like these older guys, but it's pretty mixed now. Early morning, 5:30. I had young kids, so I started riding bikes with them. And then we have a road race here at the Crosse Omnium. So I got into road racing, did the road race, and started volunteering. I don't know if I had intentions of taking over, but the former race director, TJ Brooks, he likes to say that he taught me everything I know about road bikes. He had a baby the weekend of the race. And so we had been volunteering, Robbie Young and I, who's another longtime, trails volunteer. And so we sort of
bike shop owner.
And bike shop owner. Yeah, right. We live across the street from each other as well. So it's La Crosse isn't that much of a small town, but sometimes it's for sure a small town. We took over the Omnium, and TJ helped the lead up that year, and then was, I think, I didn't appreciate it at the time, but he was pretty happy to hand it off to us, a couple of like young, kind of maybe naive, dumb volunteers to take over this large event. That got me introduced to, I mean, I was in the community a bit, but like Ralph Heath and Kurt Schrader, who are some longtime, I don't know, volunteers, leaders in the outdoor community here. And they were both on the Outdoor Recreation Alliance, ORA Trails, as we call it, board. And I remember a Tuesday night where Ralph said, well, you want to be on the board? And I said, yeah, sure, that sounds great, with no idea. And so he said, all right, I'll send you an email. Like just, average Ralph experience. And so then I got on the board for ORA and served as a volunteer. I eventually was the vice president. You and I probably were on the board together for a little bit, or maybe you had like your role as a trails coordinator. Did you have that?
Yeah, that was a trails coordinator position. I had been on the board prior to that too. I think I was VP in the early 2000 teens, it would be. So not too long after ORA became Outdoor Recreation Alliance of the Seven Rivers region. Its previous...
longest name in
I know.
Outdoor, yeah.
Its previous iteration was Human Power Trails, Inc., Incorporated. So there was that transition period, and I became an ORA board member during that transition, but then went off the board and wanted to just do trails.
Yeah, so it was weird, because really the Omnium didn't have anything to do with ORA. That's where there used to be, I mean, you probably know this history better than I do. There was like this fellow club, but at some point, TJ was like, hey, I want to do this as a fundraiser for ORA and donate the money. And TJ is currently the dean of the College of Business, and I was just like an average employee at UW La Crosse. And so when he was doing it, he would just bankroll it himself, write the checks, and then the money would come in and it would be fine. And I was like, I mean, this is an event with, $20,000+ in expenses. And I was just like, I'm not doing that. And so I came to ORA, as a volunteer, as a board member, and said, I want to make this formally an ORA event. And it worked. I mean, the math is a little fuzzy, but I would guess we probably raised over $200,000 through this bike race for ORA Trails over the course of the last decade.
So yeah, let's pause there for a second. So just to clarify that for listeners, what Chris is saying is that this road race, they're using as a vehicle for fundraising for the nonprofit Trails Club in the community, which is part of the reason why we're having this conversation today and how events can help organizations and communities. And it goes a lot deeper than that, but I wanted to illustrate that a road race is kind of bankrolling some mountain biking and trails.
Yeah. And I mean, I think the Omnium is not really an event for the local community as a participation style event. Like there's always a few roadies who show up. You jumped in this year, did the criterium. I think we should talk about that for a second too, but people volunteer. Like the community turns out to help. I mean, we have 100+ volunteers. We closed down one of the main roads on the edge of town that goes right through the trails. Actually, like the Hickson Trails are on one side, the Granddad Bluff Trails are on the other side, and right straight through the middle is a road. Which I still think the city should have like a sign that says like you're entering public land. Like it's not a national forest, but Hickson Forest, and again I'm maybe jumping out of time here, but like we have just like this amazing resource literally right on the edge of town. I happen to run a road bike time trial through it. So it's 2.4 miles like up this hill. So people come out and they watch and they cheer and they have a good time. But it's not like I'll talk later about our mountain bike race where a lot of local participants show up. It's people from all across the Midwest, but they get to come, they get to experience the region. And then as a result, they fund trails in the community for sure.
Well, I've joked, and you've heard me joke, that I'm going to line up for that time trial on a mountain bike. And I'm going to leave, and I'm going to take a right onto 29th Street, a left onto a trail that is called Tramway. And I'm going to take Tramway all the way to the top, pop back into Granddad Bluff Park, and go across the finish line, because that's literally, you can literally do that and maybe do it. I don't think you can do it faster, but I think I would be competitive against myself in that regard.
Yes. No, I probably same for me in terms of the guys who go the fastest. And I don't know.
They're superhuman.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I don't know if listeners of Trail Effect are big into road cycling, but Matteo Jorgensen is a U.S. road racer, does the Tour de France, like races for Visma Lease a Bike. And when he was a junior, he came here and did the race. And so, it's sort of bigger than just the stuff here. But at the same time, it's supporting the trails here and helping that stuff happen. And so, so it's a super cool event. So, I shepherded it through COVID, big time staffing changes at ORA. We had a part-time ED for a while. We had a full-time director. And then what I'm passionate about is events. And I pitched to the board, hey, I can come work for ORA and I can do this events and smaller events and continue to like give people in the community the opportunity to get outside and get connected. And we had a board member who actually believed in it enough that he funded my salary for a year, and they brought me on, and I did the Omnium. We tried to do a mountain bike race and it failed. I think like that's another topic, like for sure worth exploring. And then just like a variety of things like candlelight, moonlit walks. And we did an Enduro series, just like fun stuff. And I think it was really neat. But it wasn't the right fit for the trails organization at the time. They were just launching the trail farm, like putting together the bid to do that, philanthropy, fundraising, just a different direction. And so I left, actually went back to the university, worked for a couple more years, and I kept doing the Omnium as a volunteer. And then after our failed mountain bike race, I got connected to there's a series in Wisconsin called the Wisconsin Off-Road Series, WARS. I think it's the biggest mountain bike series statewide in the country.
We can talk about that in a minute. It's definitely one of the oldest, longest running ones.
Yep.
And at one point it was for sure the largest. And when I say that, we're going to go back to the original heyday of mountain biking. We're talking mid to late 90s into early 2000s. It was pulling upwards of 1,500 people for a one-day cross-country race.
And like big names. Like I was at Mount Morris where there was like the Subaru Cup. Mm-hmm. And for those of you who Strava, you can see the segments, you can see who the top 10s are. And there's these junior racers that are now, I don't know if Chris Blevins was there. People might be familiar with him.
Emily Batty was there.
Yeah.
And so was Sam. Why can't I think of his last name, from Idaho?
Yeah.
Anyhow, he was Sam Schultz. He was in that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sam Schultz had raced at Mount Morris, bringing it back to lacrosse in 96. So we're going back, into the Wayback Machine. That was the year that mountain biking made its debut in the Olympics in Georgia, here in the United States.
Yep.
And Travis Brown, who was a longtime Trek racer back in the 90s, also, I think he's currently still a Trek employee for testing of mountain bike product. He raced here in lacrosse.
Yeah.
At a WARS race at Blueberry Campground back when they were hosted at Blueberry Campground.
And that's coming up on 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So we had like that iteration. I know you guys had some other ones down at, or maybe that was WEMS. There's another series down at Sugar Creek.
There was WEMS at Sugar Creek, and WEMS that's the Wisconsin Endurance Mountain Bike Series. That was at Sugar Creek, which is a Bible camp, where they host Camp Blue Dog now.
Yep.
Which we know about Camp Blue Dog from our buddy Pete.
Yep.
But there is also WEMS racing here in La Crosse at Upper Hickson in the mid 2000s.
Yeah, and so then WARS racing. So I mean, if you're from Wisconsin, you knew Don and his mustache and his let's go start line countdown. And so Robbie Young, my co-director from the Omnium, had also at some point run the WARS race. I think actually the city parks department owned it. I think he did it for them, or maybe they were the manager. Yeah,
so I was a little bit more involved then, but I wasn't totally involved. It was basically, I believe the former parks director really wanted some sort of event here. And this would have been in like 2016, if I remember right. And so they kind of railroaded an event into here. They didn't really know how it was going to happen. And because of that event, that showed the parks department the value of mountain biking. So Upper Hickson, formerly known as HPT, had been going since around 2000. But up until around 2016, it was kind of like the bastard stepchild of the parks department. Like nobody cared about mountain biking.
It was like off up there behind the weather ball. Like just, you guys can do whatever you want. Just don't like, we don't care. Just don't, we're not giving you any money. Right.
Yeah. And really, like they didn't even want to know about what we were doing.
Yeah.
And so it was around then that really changed things, where they really looked at it as a community asset, those trails. And then because the event found value in investing in the trails,
which I think has changed things significantly. And again, we can touch on that, but yeah, so Robbie, the event happened for a few years. Sometime before COVID, it stopped. Back to my failed event. So I'm working for ORA. I try to bring a mountain bike weekend here. And at the same time, Don has been trying to sell the War Series. I don't think this is like too big of a secret to share, but at one point, Marvin Wanders, who is also a board member for ORA, and I had a conversation with Don just about the series. I don't know if we were like super serious, but Don wanted to sell. And he was looking, to be done, and we didn't really know what was going to happen with it. And so we launched this event locally in La Crosse. And if you're not familiar with the area, geographically, we're a couple hours from Madison and a couple hours from the Twin Cities. So we're kind of a hub, but we're also kind of in the middle of nowhere. We're not really, there's an interstate, but we don't necessarily have like a population to draw from, like in the southern part of Wisconsin or like in the Twin Cities area of Minnesota. So Trek actually ended up buying the War Series from Don and taking over and then sort of relaunching it the same summer that I was trying to have our entirely independent event out in the middle of like, far from all the people. And so we canceled it. We just didn't have registration numbers. People were super stoked that Wars was back and it was super big and doing really well. And I know one of the other race directors from Englewood, Ben Agnew, who's actually been a pretty good supporter of me and the events that we've been doing over the years. And he said, look, you got to do Wars. And I was like, no, man, I'm not doing another event. You're crazy. Like the Omnium, like it causes me, like a lot of headache and heartburns and all these things. And he said, no, Trek is doing it really nice. They bring in the timing, they bring in all this stuff. They split the profits. All you have to do is like get the course ready, get the volunteers, get some food trucks. And I was like, we could do that. And so I eventually, after I left working for ORA, was still doing the Omnium as a contract. Like I was like, I will put this on. It's a fundraiser for you. But like at this point, it's so much time and energy. Like I need to get paid to do this. But for the Wars race, I was like, that's fine. Like I just want this to happen. I'm willing to just like, sort of like step in and I don't know, shoot from the hip a little bit, right? Like we had sort of like an unofficial committee, but we also did it a little bit different. So the average Wars race is a cross country race. And we have like sweet downhill trails, and right, Rock Solid built us a variety of downhill trails, which it feels like they just opened, but they, what was that, 2019?
No, it was 2018 was the first round of Rock Solid Trails. 2019 was the second round, and then 2020 was when we did the Gateway Trails. So it's now 2025.
That's just mind blowing to me.
7 years ago.
Yeah.
The first round came here, and it was 2017 when we started having a discussion at the city level to have it happen.
And can I say, like, is it publicly, like we call it the Star Wars Galaxy?
As long as there's no copyright infringement. Sure.
Our trail,
it's kind of a joke,
that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, the names are I think, with their trail names. But anyway, so we have this valley of trails, and folks come out, I think, the legitimate downhill trails, right? For the topography that we have, we don't have, we don't have mountains in the Driftless region, but we have 500-600 foot bluffs coming off the Mississippi River, and we had this valley in the, Upper Hickson, where when I first started riding, it was like, old school, technical. There just really wasn't a whole lot back there, and Rock Solid transformed it into these trails. And Trek has been interested in expanding beyond cross country, and they said, hey, we would love to do a whole weekend, a short track race and an enduro. And so we added all that and joined the War Series, and I think it was really successful, and we did it again. So I think that was 2023.
Yep.
22 was the no-go. 23, we joined Wars. 24 was successful. And I know a few of the pro racers. Ben Senkrick, because I knew him when he was a college student. He's won the Wars overall elite series title, and he stopped me after the race last year and said, you guys should really have a UCI race. And I was like, yeah, good one, Ben. Like, no chance. And And then I talked to Ben Agnew from Englewood, who actually has a UCI race. So there's a national series. I think it's up to 8 races this year that he's a part of. And, again, everything is big, but it's not. When you think of things coming full circle, Fayetteville and the investment in Bentonville, I do think we feel the ripple effects of that here. So like there's a reinvestment nationally in racing and in having different courses that aren't just in Colorado or out east, and adding those stops. And so Ben added a race. And so this year, I mean, I wouldn't say it's on a whim, but pretty much like I said to Eric Kushner, who's my boss here, like, hey, I think we should, he's the owner of Smith's Bike Shop, he and Randy. And I said, Eric, I think we should do a UCI race. And he's like, okay. I
mean, if anybody's going to say, okay, it's going to be him, because he is one of many people, but definitely one of the people in lacrosse that you will find watching UCI cross country racing on TV at 6 a.m. when it's live in Europe.
Yeah.
So he's into it.
He is. Yeah. He even watches some road racing, but yeah, we're sitting by the big TV here at the shop, and we love to put on the races. And so we're doing that this year. So part of what changed is, as we were kind of talking about that, I'm like, man, this is I'm not going to be able to like shoestring this anymore. Like, I'm not going to be able to just like, in my free time kind of patch this together. And as an aside, I like ultra endurance events. And this last summer, I did my 3rd time across Minnesota, the day across Minnesota. And it's like 240 miles of gravel, and I was just pretty trashed. And Eric's like, hey man, we're going to do the ride across Wisconsin next week. Like, you should really come with us. And I was like, no way. and then of course I said yes, because I'm kind of like, I don't know if I'd say I'm dumb, but I don't always think these things through.
Peer pressure is tough.
Yeah. And so Eric and I got to spend whatever it was, 8 hours on our bikes together, riding from La Crosse to Trek headquarters in Waterloo, Wisconsin. And we had plenty of time to talk, right, during this whole day. And at one point I said, I should just come work for you. I should just come work for the shop. I can help with sales and stuff, but I can put on these bike races. I can do these community events. At this point, I hadn't even realized it was the Smith's 130th anniversary. Like, that wasn't even part of it, but I just kind of made this pitch thinking that he was going to say like, oh yeah, that's funny, but there's no way I'm, like that's not reality. And he instead, was like, actually, I like that idea. I think Randy would like that idea. There's a lot of stuff that we want to do that we just don't have the capacity to put on at the shop. And that was in August, and we kicked it around until I think I started November 1st. And yeah, so I've been here for a little over 6 months, and it's been fantastic. Like, it's just so different. But I think this is a really good home for these kind of community events. Randy and Eric are huge on supporting the community. There's no average week for what I do, but I'm really glad we're recording this week, because it's such a good example of like the things that I have been up to lately. So we got contacted by a group called the Texas 4000. They're riding from Austin, Texas to Anchorage, Alaska. They happened to come through La Crosse.
It's kind of weird, because it's not direct from Austin to La Crosse to Alaska.
Right.
That's awesome.
I don't know how. Yeah, right. Yeah, super neat. And they're fundraising for cancer research. We lost I don't even want to just say an employee, but like a friend, like a family member of the Smiths community, Mike Blockheis. And then this spring, one of our high school mechanics got diagnosed with brain cancer. He's currently fighting that. And so it was this no-brainer to like, yeah, we will host these people who are fundraising for cancer for dinner. So Monday night at the back of the shop, we hosted a community dinner. It was open to the public. We grilled up 100 brats and just served dinner to the community. So I come in the morning, I'm doing whatever regular stuff, working the floor, doing that Monday night. Tuesday night, we had an event with Gillette Pepsi, which is a local distributor. We have a fleet of e-bike rentals. So I took them out and gave these folks a chance to ride an e-bike and see what that's all about. And then last night I was out we have a free summer concert series in our park called Moon Tunes. And I'm out in the park. We do a bike valet parking. So 4 hours last night, just parking people's bikes, cooking in the sun a little bit. Got here before the podcast this morning to unload all of the bike racks and all the different stuff. And so it's just a different kind of role. But Eric and Randy really, really believe in the community. They really support the community and the different events and stuff. So it's been interesting. It's just so very different, right? Like I said, no position description. You just kind of show up and figure out what you want to make happen. And yeah, I could continue to go on, but I want to make sure are there like specific topics we want to hit?
Yeah, there are. And I just thought of another one that I don't even have here, but we're going to go into that in a minute. Let's rewind to the Omnium to kind of get into what that does. And I know that obviously this is a trail podcast, and so talking about road racing might be a little weird, but the point of this topic is more along the lines of what it means to bring people from out of state into this region that most people don't realize is here unless you've been here. And the Omnium, like Chris said, is a 3-day road race. It's a time trial on Friday up a hill, so you don't need a time trial specific bike, which is really nice. On Saturday, it's a road race about 15 miles outside of La Crosse in this small town of Chaseburg, which also has a pretty prevalent Amish community. And then on Sunday, it's the opposite of that. And you go right back into urban downtown La Crosse and go crit racing. And you already pointed out, we're like in between Minneapolis, Madison, Milwaukee. But when it comes to road racing, I think that's what the special sauce is for this ingredient, is that you get Iowa road racers, you get Minnesota road racers, you get Illinois road racers, and you get Wisconsin road racers.
The only way I think to have a successful event in our area is it has to be really big. You have to go all in. And you can there's like a lot of great small community events that we do, but like people are always telling me we should have a cyclocross race. There's like 6 people or 12 people locally who would participate. And then but you have to give people a reason to travel here. And we find this all the time living here, Josh, right? Like I want to do a Wars race, but last weekend it's in Wausau. I mean, basically every single time that I participate in an event, I have to drive 2 to 3 hours. And so it better be something really good for me. But then on the other hand, it better be really good for other people to travel here. So the Omnium, I think, makes it worth people's time to come. The time trial is Friday night. So like you could take a half day on Friday. You get 3 full days of racing. You get to, you get to experience like the driftless region. And, you know, Madison, I like Madison. They like to think that they're like on the edge of the driftless, but they just do not have the elevation gain that we do. And, you know, Arkansas gets close. Like you and I like to get down there.
You have to actually go into Arkansas, the state, not Bentonville, to get the elevation that they have there.
Yeah. And I mean, again, so then you go basically way out east or out to the mountains to get the kind of stuff that we have.
Or to get into the UP a little bit.
Yep. That's true too. Yeah. But I mean, so I'm parking Valley Bikes last night at Moon Tunes, and this couple comes up and they're from Colorado, and they're like, "You guys have no idea how good this is. This place is amazing. You know, we ride in Colorado, but and we love the mountains, but like they were like looking at moving here, right? Just from having experienced it, and they're like, your bike paths are fantastic, and the traffic is good, the cost of living is so good. There's food at the grocery store. It's not like overrun with people. You know, like just how different that is and how much they enjoyed it. And I think that's the kind of thing, yeah, for sure that the Omnium does. I'm always trying to market that or try and sell that to like local businesses. So we're the home of Kwik Trip, which is a regional gas station, although I think they were just named best gas station in the US. And
yeah, watch out, Buc-ee's.
Yeah, Buc-ee's. I mean, Buc-ee's is an experience, but
Kwik Trip's coming after you.
Kwik Trip, yeah.
And that's Kwik Trip, just to be clear, because there's another Kwik Trip in the Midwest. It's Kwik Trip with a K. It's KWIK.
Yep.
Not with a Q. If you find a Kwik Trip where there's Q's, it's actually a Kwik Star.
Yep. And it's not as good, probably, as Kwik Trip. I mean, we're pretty partial to our Kwik Trip.
Yeah, no, locally. I mean, our Kwik Trip experience where there's other Kwik Trips is differentiated by calling our Kwik Trips Kwik Stars.
Correct, yes.
So they don't infringe too closely.
Right. The KWIK is what sells it for sure.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of which, you have some Kwik Trip Crocs. I mean, they're popular enough to have Kwik Trip Crocs.
I wore them last night. I was like, how did you see me? Oh, no, you saw them last week.
Yeah.
Somebody was telling me I should be wearing them outside because they're going to become a collector's item. But I said, these are meant to be worn. It's my first pair of Crocs. Yeah. So Kwik Trip has I think it's fair to say they have a vibe locally. They have like signs at the gas stations, like talking about their chicken having Riz, which is charisma for those of you who don't have young children or are not hip and with it. It took me a while to get that. My kids still definitely do not like when I talk about Riz. Although at this point, I think it's peaked in popularity. But so why are we talking about this gas station? This gas station is pretty fantastic, but they're headquartered here and they need more employees. And so I'm always like trying to pitch to them, hey, events they're good for the local community. They're good for your employees to get out, to be active. They support building local trails. They bring people to the region. They expose new people to potentially living here and working here. I think there's just a ton of advantages for that. And I think they get it. Kwik Trip actually sponsors a tour of America's Dairyland, which is 10 days of criterium racing in southeastern Wisconsin. And I just keep wanting to say like, hey, let's do this locally as well. So yeah, I'm always like making a pitch to Kwik Trip to try and like get them to support some of the crazy local ideas that we have here. There are so many Kwik Trips in La Crosse. This is like a sort of a joke. How many Kwik Trips are there in La Crosse, Josh? But I actually did a map if we did a ride. And I didn't put it together this summer. I just took on too much. But one of the other ideas I had that I pitched to Eric was a ride to all 13 Kwik Trips in the La Crosse area. So in about 40 miles, you can ride to 13 of the exact same gas station. And I don't know if you follow, there's this marathon in Colorado where it's a Taco Bell marathon, and they had to buy an item and eat it at every single, at 10 different Taco Bells.
That's kind of horrible.
But if you throw up, you're disqualified. So you have
that makes it competitive at least.
Yeah, right. So I was like, but I don't know if Kwik Trip's gonna go for that. But anyway, yeah, it's stuff like that, right? Like that's the kind of stuff that I'm excited about for the local community, to bring people together, to give them these things, to do these partnerships. Ben Delaney was just here for a preview of Gravel Nationals. So the regions, I'm probably again jumping out of turn, but was just here for that. And we took him to his first Kwik Trip. And he was like, I think we hyped it up a little bit too much, because he's like, oh, okay, it's still a gas station. And we're like, yeah, but it's a really, really good gas station. And then I had to explain to him what a scotcheroo was. But anyway, this little square, right, like less than 4 inches by 4 inches, has like 650 calories.
So is there some official bakery rule book somewhere?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know, right?
UCI rules.
The UCI rules. Yeah. Your handlebars can be this wide, and it's not a scotcheroo unless it's got butterscotch chips in it. So anyway, sorry, I'm jumping a little bit. So bring me back.
Omnium. So the road race. Talk about that course, just because it's from a topographic perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They exist. I'm sure there's another course out there that exists that's somewhat like this, but it's really unique. So there are these rolling hills that kind of go along a trout stream in this beautiful valley. You mentioned the Amish, but it's really funny. The area is also home to Organic Valley, and so you'll have like organic farmers. There's like a herd of sheep on the course. There's solar panels, just like big old solar panels all over the place. And then there's an Amish buggy and an Amish bakery. The road rolls a bit, and then it climbs a full bluff on this winding, beautiful road. It rolls around this backside on, we don't really get a lot of rollers here, but for road bike riders, a roller is kind of a hill that you could kind of like, if you go fast enough down, it'll scoot you back up the other side. And usually we just have, 5, 10, 15-minute bluff climbs. So there's some rollers on the course. You go past Amish Bakery, you go do the downhill. You helped me pick this course, actually. The first year we did it, it's a highway, it's a county highway, but you can hit 50 miles an hour sustained coming down this road. And I just was a little bit worried for some of these flatlanders, like showing up here and then like, cramming down this downhill and like at sustained speeds. And we have had really no issues with that. But it's super fun, right? Because there's not a lot of road races where, again, you're like in a group doing 50 miles an hour coming down a hill, sprint finish on a nice flat stretch, which is really fantastic. And yeah, it's good. It's just fun. It's a unique event. They do a pancake breakfast. The local community they have a cancer walk, and they do a fundraising breakfast as well. So it's just like, it's pretty symbiotic to bring the racers out there and then to support the local community too. Yeah.
Well, and then Sunday you go like straight into the heart of downtown La Crosse, which is pretty historic. It's like literally on the Mississippi River. Like you have the Mississippi River basically on the start finish line.
Yep. And we have a convention center, and it would have closed our crit course. And I was like really struggling to like figure out where we were going to host this race, what we were going to do. And then COVID happened. And then 2 years that we didn't race the race because of COVID, they built. So the course literally goes through the building, underneath this overhang along the Mississippi River, four corners, fast, flat. Again, people love it. I love it. I've raced it. You raced it this year. I mean, what was the experience like, Josh?
Personally?
Yeah.
I'm not a crit racer. I'm not a road racer.
This is not true, because I saw you do a crit race. That makes you a crit racer.
And I've done a couple in the past too, but it had been 12 years since I'd done one. I actually kind of feel like I did better in this one than I would have done like 12 or 13 years ago, which is strange because I still got pulled. So I still didn't like actually truly finish it. But we were, I was doing Cat 4.5, like 35 plus, just to put that into perspective. So this is like I joke that if this was a mountain bike race, it would have been like citizen class almost.
Yeah. That's
you know what I mean?
Yep.
But we were still doing over 30 miles an hour, between turns 4 and 1.
Yeah.
We had a little bit of a tailwind, which helped that.
A little bit of a downhill.
A little bit of a downhill, which also helped that. But it was like Chris said, it was cool because you go right, you basically go right through the lacrosse center. And I remember when we were all talking about where do we move this crit race to in 2020? Because that road is going to be essentially under construction, or it's going to be a construction site due to the expansion of the lacrosse center. And then COVID happened. And so it actually didn't matter.
People say like the things you worry about the most never happen or whatever. And I always think like, well, that's not true at all. But it's weird. It's weird how things line up sometimes. Because I just could not find another course. Everywhere there's a road, there's somebody who needs to access that road. Whether it's a business, whether it's a person living there. We don't have business parks in La Crosse like other places do. Kwik Trip does have like an area. We'll call it an area,
or a campus. You could almost call it.
It's a campus. It's a Kwik Trip Landia, is what I like to call it. But they're operating 7 days a week. It's not like an abandoned business park where these business people. Kwik Trip makes all of their like baked items. All of the milk is processed here. Like it comes from the farm to Kwik Trip and like back out again in like 48 hours. Sometimes when we're out on the trails, it smells like glazed donuts.
Yeah, because they got glazers.
They got glazers, and they're close enough to our trails that, like, if the wind is right and you're out riding in the morning, you're like, am I hungry and hallucinating, or does it smell like glazed donuts? And it actually smells like glazed donuts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Trail like bonus for La Crosse.
Yeah. Well, we're going to go back to wars. Eric is here. Hello, Eric.
I think I forgot to tell him I told you a long time ago I was doing this. I just didn't tell you it was today.
We're in your podcast. We're in your official podcast studio that you didn't even know you had. You were the first. So we talked about earlier how we've done 3 shows here now because we had Chris Scogan also, who is the Alamanzo 100 founder, which we're going to talk about gravel. Not too much gravel, but we're going to talk about gravel.
Yeah,
we can't let any secrets out.
No secrets. But no, I mean, Scogan, you had asked me before, we were talking a little bit about what things you've learned from other people. And I mean, having Chris Scogan around, it's just weird. He's like a living legend. And he's just like, he's really a chill guy. Obviously you had him on the podcast. I liked that one. I listened to it. Cause that was like right when he's like, did his wheels get stolen or something?
There's the day his wheels got stolen off his vehicle. So the wheels got stolen off of his vehicle in Minneapolis, and we're in La Crosse.
Yeah.
And he still figured out a way
to get here to record this podcast that evening. Yeah.
And put a positive spin on it.
Yeah. That's Chris Scogan.
Yeah. Exactly.
So yeah, we could talk a little bit of gravel later, but
yeah. So let's go back into, we talked about wars. You briefly touched on the fact that it's a UCI race this year. Let's go a little bit deeper into the UCI end of it and what you might expect. And again, we're going to bring this back to community because we're bringing people into La Crosse for now a UCI event that maybe didn't know this place existed.
Yeah. Could I say I'm a little bit nervous? Definitely.
I would think that that's a good thing because it lets you know that you really want to do well. Yeah. It's like showing up to the start line of a race, right?
Yes. Right. You see, if you're not a little bit nervous, you're not going to prepare and you're not going to, maybe do it the best that you could. Yeah. So I don't know what I think will happen. I mean, we're on the USA Cycling National Circuit as well. So there's 8 races and we are one of them. It's a points race for nationals as well. And Bruce Martin up in the Twin Cities with the National Youth Center Development, NYCD. I might be butchering that. They have a ton of kids. They're getting kids on bikes. They're getting kids out on the trails. They're doing racing as well. He has some fantastic programs, and they love to come. And they're always looking for more points for nationals. And because we're an August race, we're after this year's nationals, the points will count for next year. So like we're going to be bringing people here. People are definitely excited about it. We have a course. It's been tried. It's been tested. The pro field at an average wars race isn't necessarily nationally competitive, but also it kind of is. you and I both know like some names. For a long time, it felt like Cole House was dominating. He still shows up in races. He was a UCI World Tour road racer at one point. I remember he just shared something about like maybe Marcel Kittel or one of the former sprinters just retired from the pro peloton, and Cole House was roommates with him when they were like juniors or something. So like we have legit talent that has come here and has raced on our race course, and we're going to use the same course for the pros. I think I'm biased. I'm just going to say that it's a legitimate course. It's got elevation gain. It's got old school. It's got flow. It's got jumps, but it's also got, rooty, rocky, tight, back and forth. It's not easy, and yet it's not like it's not like the World Cup courses that you see on TV where they're like doing some pretty crazy stuff. We're not going down the Jedi.
We could totally use Vader.
Yeah, we could.
As that course. I'm gonna not recommend it, but it could be done.
Yeah. So we have like everything. We have like all the ingredients. We know how to run a race, and so I'm confident if people come, when people come, they're gonna have a really good experience. But yeah, I got the rule book for the UCI, and I was reading through it, and it's a bunch of rules. And so like all my volunteers have to have a whistle, and the start thing can't be inflatable. It has to start arch. It has to be metal. And
good thing it was metal, right? Or is it not metal?
It was inflatable.
It was inflatable? I know Don used to run metal, I think.
I think, I don't know. We'll figure it out. Because we also have, like, part of the local community here is knowing other people. And Mike Borst is the president of ORA Trails, and he does a bunch of running stuff. And I know he's got a metal arch that he uses as well. And so we'll figure all of the pieces out. Randy sent me an email the other day, though, and she said, all the email said was reminder to talk to me about UCI stuff. Because I had told her, like, we got to make sure that we cross our T's and dot our I's and get all this stuff figured out. And so we will. But yeah, I think it's going to be a great weekend. So Friday night we have an uphill time trial.
Strange. Another Friday night uphill time trial. This one's on dirt, though.
This one's on dirt. Not the dirt that you were just talking about you could ride. This is a different trail, our Vista 1, Vista 2 trail. We're mainly doing that because the guy from Trek, Marcus, shout out to Marcus for all the stuff that he does. He personally did it last year, and he wants to try and beat his time. And he's like, we gotta keep that time trial in there. And we had like 20 people who did it. Turns out mountain bikers, for the most part, are more about maybe the down than just the up. And so not a ton of uphill only time trial participants.
Is it 3 miles?
It's like 2.5. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a hard.
It is a very
climb.
hard. It's got some flat sections, but it's got some very steep sections too.
Yeah. So I think it's fun, but yeah, so we'll start with that Friday, and then we'll also be doing short track. So a lot of the folks who do UCI racing like the short track as well. So I mean, I'm excited for both sides of that. One is bringing people here, getting them to see our trails, experience it, realize like La Crosse is a destination. Like you can come here for a weekend or for longer. I'm actually curious if some of the professional racers might also be interested in the Gravel Nationals event, which will be like a month after our race.
Great segue.
Yeah, but so they could come, they could like hang out for a few days, they could pre-ride the gravel course, they could, pre-ride our mountain bike course, they could do the race. I'm hoping they kind of bleed together a little bit, that both events happening. And then the local community gets to watch some of the best racers in the country. Short track is like NASCAR, kind of on bikes, but it's on mountain bikes.
On mountain bikes, yeah.
Yeah, it's like dirty NASCAR. And I think it's going to be awesome. Like, I'm really hopeful people come out and watch and enjoy and have the experience. Saturday, we have the downhill, the Enduro race. There's a sport class and advanced class that almost always sells out. You've participated in every year. I mean, what is it? How does La Crosse, again, probably you're biased a little bit, but you've been around. How does La Crosse compare, like, for an Enduro?
So La Crosse Enduro is compared to other, I'm going to say even other Midwest Enduros, the courses are on the shorter side because at Upper Hickson, where we host it, we don't have the luxury of actually running it all the way to the bottom because we don't have public land all the way to the bottom. But it allows people, a race is still a race. Like, you still have a clock. It doesn't matter if it's, minute and a half, 2-minute Enduro courses or 8-minute Enduro courses. And this Enduro course it's definitely good for people that haven't done Enduros and want to like dip their toes in the water. And especially the sport one where you don't have to do the super technical trails, but it's got everything. It's got on the longer Enduro, which is a 5-stage Enduro. You have technical rock drops that you have to do if you want, or you don't have to do them, but if you want to do them, they're obviously going to be faster.
Yep.
You know, if you go around, if you do the ride arounds, it's definitely slower. But really, it's a good way for people to get into enduro. You can do it. You don't have to have an enduro bike. In fact, I'm going to say on the record, as I've done it the last 2 years on an enduro bike, that I think it's slower.
So the winner of the race last year is actually a part-time mechanic. And
last 2 years, actually.
Did he win both years?
Yeah.
Is a high school kid. He just graduated, who works at the shop and works on our trails. He has a Super Caliber, which if you're,
I'm not going to recommend racing it on a Super Cal,
no, but he didn't. And because he's like, I kind of feel bad doing it on the Super Cal. So he did it on like a 110 though. It wasn't, he did it on an
older Kona bike process, that he just had like a Process 110 or 120 or something.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a pedally guy, but also like has the skill to do it. And then, just ripped it. And
yeah. So it's a good course. I mean, if what you have is, say, a Trek Top Fuel, I think they formerly called bikes in that category downcountry. Now they're just like Trail Light or something else, which is probably good.
Yep.
You can totally do it on that. So you can do it on the bike that you do cross country on. You don't have to have a specific bike.
Yeah, you could. I think you could, especially sport class.
Yeah.
My son is 13. I guess he was probably 12 last year at the time that he raced it. He's like, Dad, can I jump into sport? And I was like, sure. He's on an old Epic. He was on an old Epic Evo, 120, like totally fine.
The other thing about it that I personally like is that it goes fast. And so what you're not going to do here at this Enduro is you're not going to stand in line for an hour or 45 minutes or even a half hour or even 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's quick.
The way it's run is like you pick, at least for the first 3 courses, which is the sport and open or whatever it is combined, you pick what run you want to go on first, second, and third, and you just go independently. Like maybe you have to wait for 1 or 2 people in front of you, but it's not a long line. So for me personally, that's one of the things I don't actually like about enduro racing is I don't like standing in line for 45 minutes to do a run.
Yeah.
So that's another thing here is like you get those first 3 rounds out of the way, timing gets reset. There's maybe a half hour break in between, the sport courses and then the full courses. And then you go back and do a lap on Jedi and a lap on Vader, and it's over with. And so between starting and finishing, it's not like your full enduro day that you'd find somewhere else, So
yeah, and then you can hang out. I mean, there's a cross country race the next day. I should back up though. The pros, the UCI will also do their full cross country race Saturday afternoon after the enduro. So like not on all of the same. There's a little bit of overlap though, which I think is neat. Like, especially as someone who's watching pro racing, like, yeah, it'll be cool. And then Sunday is the regular Wars race. So it's a full day of cross country racing. But I love that because we have a kids race, we have citizens, we have a try it out course, like so that if you're a beginner and you're just like getting into mountain biking, it's free. Come ride it and experience it. And if you're a pro and you raced yesterday and you want to jump back in our Wars elite category, you can. You can get another day and you can kind of do that too. So spectator friendly, we have food, we have vendors. Like, I think it's what I was hoping that we would be doing someday. And I hope this year is even bigger than past years. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of big things, and this is something that you may or may not have fully been involved with, but it came out, I think it was fall of 2024. Was it announced that Gravel Nationals is coming to La Crescent, Minnesota? And for those not aware, La Crescent, Minnesota is directly across the river from La Crosse, Wisconsin. And so while the host city is La Crescent has 1 hotel. And so really the host city in terms of like where people are coming to for lodging in that is going to be La Crosse. And in a weird way, this is a region and it covers 2 states. And so our, what they call Explore La Crosse also covers La Crescent.
Yep. Our Convention and Visitors Bureau. Yeah. If you're not familiar, I guess it happens in the mountain bike world as well, but USA Cycling has different national championships. I think 2 years ago, they added gravel. It's kind of a booming idea of, it's road bikes with big tires that you ride where there's not so many cars and there's a little bit more scenery. And the last 2 years were in Gearing, Nebraska, which is a fine place. I imagine. I have not been there, but looking at the media that had come out about it, it was similar to some other courses that happen in the center part of the country, which is just sort of maybe some rolling hills, but a lot of flat. And the style of racing that, where you're in a group or doing some different stuff is going to be very, very different here. So yeah, the Explore Lacrosse put in a bid and they won. And I have been part of the routes committee for the past 6 months or so. And we've been working on putting courses together. We have some more grassroots events here as well. If you follow professional racing at all, Unbound is the sort of unofficial Super Bowl of gravel racing. And I would say probably the racer who got the most attention the last couple of years for his bike setup is a local racer by the name of Chase Wark. Chase is an aero dork. He does weird things per average bike standards. So this year, I think he was on a full disc rear wheel, and I don't mean disc brake. I mean did Ned Overend once do like a full disc like on 26ers back in the day?
Well, so way back in the day, we're gonna say back in the early '90s, there was a disc that a company called Tioga made, which was a weird like Kevlar woven spoke disc thing that Ned Overend used, John Tomac used, maybe a few others. There's some weird stuff going on then. So it's pretty much came full circle, I guess, is where Chris is going with this.
Yes, absolutely, right? So, but Chase has been on the committee as well, and so, just I'm excited just for the reason that I'm excited for any of the other stuff that we do. The shop hosted a fun gravel ride last weekend where we just went out and got to get on some of the gravel locally that like outside of the Crescent. The courses are not official. USA Cycling is still working on some different pieces and getting some stuff together, but the general idea of the gravel here, it doesn't really, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but the specifics of the course, I mean, you don't have to know it to come here and ride. There are going to be sustained 5 to 10 minute climbs. There's probably going to be multiple of them, right? Like the way that the topography works here is you go down, you go back up, you go down. There is almost no flat gravel in the region. It just is not something that we have. And so it's going to be in conjunction with Apple Fest, another community event that La Crescent has going on. And yeah, I'm excited. It's also, interestingly enough, the Lifetime Grand Prix is going to be in Wisconsin the week before for the Schwamigan Fat Tire Festival. So one of the original mountain bike races, which really isn't a mountain bike race to you and I. It's a double track Berkey ski trail.
It was mountain biking in the 80s.
Right. All right. Yeah. And it's not bad. It's just not a single track course. So that'll be the week before. So my hope or expectation is that a bunch of a bunch of national level pros are going to come to La Crosse, to the area, and to hang out, and then to do the Gravel Nationals after doing Schwamigan. So I think it's just going to be really different than the last couple of years. I think the participation is going to be higher. You can see it's public who's registered, right? But like registration numbers are doing well. I'm not going to make a comparison, but they're doing well. So I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, and just to give people a little bit more insight to the gravel that Chris is talking about, I would say it's the opposite of the gravel you would find at a gravel race in Arkansas, whereas the actual gravel is significantly smaller, and the gravel here, this is getting a little geeky and into the weeds, isn't as hard physically as the gravel there, and so you don't have to necessarily worry so much about sharp like sidewall tears like you would in, say, a race that happens in Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah, I mean, Big Sugar, Little Sugar, both of them. People are getting flat.
I actually couldn't remember the name of it, so I just kept saying Northwest Arkansas.
The Sugar races, Sugar Creek. People are getting like flat tires. I've ridden the gravel out there, and it sometimes almost just seems like they took like an earth mover and just scraped the bottom and just left whatever. Like that's just what you get. Here, there's quarries. You're gonna see quarries when you're out riding the gravel around here, and they just take it out in a dump truck and lay it down. And when it's fresh, it's really loose. Like you could be on a mountain bike and be struggling, but once it gets compacted, it tends to turn into like champagne gravel. Like it's just like a crushed limestone path, basically. So it's really interesting. That was like I wrote an article for a local magazine online publication called The North, talking about tires, because it's hard to say. If it's loose, if it's fresh, you definitely want to be on a bigger tire. But if you're fast, you could be on you could basically ride it. I mean, people did, right, on a road tire before gravel was really a thing. I mean, my first road gravel in La Crescent, it was on 33 cyclocross tires on a cross bike.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a gravel bike. I live in this region. I'm not afraid to put my own route together that maybe has some stretches of gravel, not long stretches, where I'll ride my road bike on.
Yeah.
We're talking like maybe a few miles.
Yep.
But yeah, it's not really. So I think the wild card with that course in terms of tires, and again, I'm going to preface this with, I don't have a gravel bike. I'm not a gravel racer. If I was, I'd be concerned with the downs more than the ups.
Yeah, no question.
And that's where tires might be a factor.
Yeah. No, there was a race last fall where there was a downhill and multiple people got, I think, an ambulance ride. I had a ride that I did with a friend who went off decreasing radius turn. That's like a motorcycle term, right? Like the corner kept getting sharper as it went, but he was going faster, and he spent 10 days in the hospital with double punctured lungs. And, I'm glad he survived, basically. So not to scare anyone, but just to say, like, it's tight, it's technical, it's fast. I think a mountain biker, a strong mountain biker, this is a gravel course for them, for sure. Much more than like a wide open, flat, straight road is a road biker course where you can sit in and you can be tactical. Like, this is going to be different for sure. And I'm excited about it.
Yeah. Let's move back to Smiths.
Yeah.
And events, because we're all about community events on the show, or this particular episode. Smiths is 130 years old.
1895.
1895. So what could you buy at Smiths in 1895?
I just found an article, actually. It was like Smith's Gas and Cyclery. And so, I mean, follow us on Facebook and you can see, but I shared a bike that you could buy. I found an article from the UW La Crosse college paper from the 70s where they were talking about bikes you could buy in the early 1900s and how they were kind of a luxury item at that point, $150 before they were mass produced. And so it's obviously like Joseph Smith started it, and then like the location was different. I mean, even the location we're sitting in is not the location you probably originally knew Smiths in.
No, I knew Smiths growing up here in La Crosse as being over by what used to be known as Lincoln Middle School.
Yeah.
And it moved here. I can't remember when it moved here. It must have moved here in the early 2000s in downtown La Crosse. But yeah, so it's, when I was growing up, there was a handful more bike shops here in town. It wasn't as consolidated as it is now. And I didn't think of going to Smith's because it was that kind of obscure bike shop that sold, and this is not a knock on Schwinn, but it sold Schwinns and it sold ice skates. And you might be able to find some independent skateboard trucks in the glass case. Like, it just had a weird vibe and it wasn't targeted at really anybody. And then a local business entrepreneur bought it. And around that same time, another person that we know quite well, also named Josh, happened to move to town, was looking for a job at a bike shop. I mean, that was about the most serendipitous thing that I think could have happened.
Yeah.
Was that the owner wasn't a bike shop owner before, and he needed somebody with bike shop experience. And this guy named Josh Shively moved here from Iowa because his wife got a job here as a teacher, and he needed a job. And here we are today. And I think that's a pretty critical point in Smith's history.
Yeah. And let the record show that even at his advanced age of 52, Josh Shively is by far one of the best mountain bikers that you'll ever ride with. I spent a solid 2 out of 3 hours at the Berkey Bike Epic Weekend single track event a couple weeks ago, barely hanging on to his wheel, just with full trust as we like ripped through some single track.
So let me ask you this, and maybe you were not part of the Omnium at this time. We're going back to the Omnium briefly. I promise it'll be brief. But do you remember when his front wheel blew up at the finish of the Omnium and he came across the finish line with like holding the bike up at full speed? if I remember right, and like sliding on his feet.
I wasn't there for that one. I was there when he slid out in the final corner and then basically just stood up, brushed himself off and said, I guess I need some new bar tape, and just like carried on with a smile on his face. Yeah, Josh Shively is like a...
He's like the local Chuck Norris of...
Actually, he started our NICA team. He worked for our national, our statewide, so that's the high school, middle school mountain bike organization. So he started from scratch.
Coach for this?
I am a coach. Actually, I don't know if you even know this. This is my big reveal. I'm gonna be the announcer for all of the races this fall for the statewide league.
Somebody must have heard you announcing at the Omnium and was like, "Hey, Chris should be."
One of the things that I relish doing, I don't know why. My wife doesn't like that I do this, but I spend 8 hours of the criterium announcing the racing all day, and I really enjoy it. So yeah, so I'm gonna do that for the NICA races as well. But yeah, so Josh, just a super fantastic guy. So he comes here, he's the manager, and in addition to being Chuck Norris, like you can't imagine a nicer person. Like yeah. I don't know if I know anybody nicer than Josh Shively. And so again, I think probably this just speaks to this community on a whole, right? It sort of attracts people, and then I don't know, does it bring out their best version, or like but people. I think the topography has to play a little bit of a role, right? Like if you were like by yourself in a flat area, you might like, and you love mountain biking, you might build a trail. It could happen, right? You know, but like we just keep pulling people in, and the flywheel is kind of rolling, and the community grows, and so you know it all ties together. So Josh does that. You know, Eric obviously also comes in as manager at the shop.
Yeah, Eric, who currently owns it with his wife Randy, came in behind Josh as a manager. So Josh, maybe groomed is a bad term, but Josh groomed Eric.
Yeah.
And who he is today as a shop owner.
Yeah, so Eric was a manager for a long time, and then he and Randy got married. Actually, I think next year is 10 years for them as well. So this year...
We're getting old, man. I remember being at his wedding. Like that was one of the wedding vows. So this is where Star Wars comes into it. It was like
Eric is a huge Star Wars fan. Let the record show.
Yeah. So the vows were like full on Star Wars themed, which I could not like, and they were long. Like to me, it was really surreal, and I don't know anything about. I mean, I joke that the best Star Wars movie ever is Spaceballs.
Yeah.
And I know Spaceballs better than any Star Wars movie.
Those are fighting words. I'm looking to see if Eric's around to yell at you, but he's not. So
no, he knows where I'm at with that.
But yeah, I mean, and I think Eric he's a longtime BMX guy, mountain bike guy, like community oriented. But you know, it's a bunch of dudes at the shop, and then Randy.
And there's women that work here too.
There is. But you know, I think there was a I don't know, can I say vibe? I mean, it was kind of a bike shop, like an average bike shop,
yeah.
which is fine. Or maybe it was an above average bike shop. But I think bringing Randy into the mix as co-owner helped it flourish, right? It took what was here and maybe a little bit untapped potential, and it helped it grow and develop. And I today, like, we have a great community, and there are many good bike shops. But I mean, Smith's is every time, you and I probably both do this. Every time you travel, you go to different bike shops and you go to different places. And I didn't realize how high I had my standards set until like I'm seeing a lot of these different places, and we sell a lot of Trek bikes, but we're not a Trek corporate store. So it's somewhere in between where it's just like, I think there's a real level of authenticity here. And again, that community aspect, it's not like I say to Randy, hey, I want to do this community dinner. And she says, no. She's like, absolutely. How can I help? What can we do? And she jumps in with both feet, and we make this thing happen. And the Moon Tunes thing, right? Like, we're out there just valet parking people's bikes for free for the community underneath the Smith's tent, like literally underneath the Smith's tent. And so I maybe shouldn't have been surprised that they were willing to, go out on a limb and bring me in to do this kind of stuff, because it's the stuff that they value and that they want to do. And I love it. It's fantastic for our community. So, yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things we haven't talked about, and I actually didn't even have it on my list of topics, but since you just brought up Moon Tunes, is the valet is in partnership with something called Beer by Bike Brigade, which is something that started out as exactly how it might sound. It's a bunch of people drinking beer on bikes,
rolling around town, but it's gone beyond that. And maybe you can just briefly talk about what that does.
and then we'll probably end up wrapping this thing up.
Yeah. So another like local community person who ended up here, Mario, started this. He calls it a silly little bar hop on bikes.
Yeah, bar hop. Yeah,
bar
he is the town
bikes.
drunk apparently too.
Apparently, I mean, but not in a like in a bad way. That's more of a joking way for sure.
It's totally joking because when you find him, he's probably drinking water or something that actually doesn't even have alcohol in it.
Yep, he's probably eating some hummus as well. But yeah, so he started this, and it just speaks to the community here. So it was like a couple people, and then all of a sudden it was a couple hundred people. And he's doing fundraising. He's doing he has like this major bingo game and an app and like different stuff. But we work together, we partner, we support each other in a lot of different stuff because we both value at the end of the day the community and getting people out. And so it's like, does it hurt a bike shop if a bunch of people are going on a bar hop on bikes? No, right? It helps. People are coming in, they're getting their bike fixed, or they're buying a water bottle, or they're doing other stuff. But it's not like Randy and Eric are like, we can only do this thing if it has this return on investment, right? Like I don't think ROI is a thing that I've ever, no one's ever said to me, right? It's like, hey, if we do that, like it could have a side benefit that helps the community. Or I'm sorry, the opposite. It could help the shop. But like, like the Moon Tunes Valet thing, it's not like there's no charge. This is like, I mean, do people know our name? Sure. But also like we're already downtown. It's just for the good of the community. And so, when Mario wants to raffle off a bike, it's like, yeah, man, sweet. Well, let's work together. Let's figure this out. Let's make this happen. And those partnerships are what make lacrosse special for sure.
Yeah, I would say it's always community first. And I don't know if ROI has ever been spoken. That's just not a thing.
Right.
I mean, in a time where you hear in the media, and I'm talking bike specific media, shops struggle, and for good reason, because we're in different times right now. But I think, the secret sauce with Smiths is that they just keep plugging away with their community focused initiative and don't have any hidden agenda.
Right.
It just is what it is.
Yep.
Yeah,
no, I mean, I'm stoked. So, I'm just sitting there like looking at the history of Smith's Bike Shop. I'm like fixing up the website when I start, because I'm just like trying to figure out, and it's like, yeah, 1895, 130 years. Let's just do this thing. And Eric and Randy are immediately like, yes, let's do it. We haven't even formally announced it. It's not like because it's not what it's about. But the money that we raise, we're going to donate it for cancer research. Like that's the kind of thing that we want to do, that we want to support. Yeah, we are a business and we are hosting an event, but it's like, we're not in this to get rich. Like, even though I put on the Omnium as an employee of Smith's Bike Shop, we donate the money back to ORA. Like we still made, in total, it'll be about $15,000 in donation this year back to ORA for the event. That's the stuff that they believe in. And it's not like, oh, this is happening here, so this is a Smith's thing now. And no, right? Like all of these different things, they are supporting me and they are supporting our community, and we are doing this stuff together. And it's fantastic.
Well, and Randy specifically, she is a co-director of 906 Adventure Team, and those who have been longtime listeners of this podcast hopefully know what 906 Adventure has been out, because I've had Todd Paquette on twice. And while we live in the 608,
we do.
906 is the area code where 906 Adventure started in, which is in Marquette, Michigan. But Randy, so Randy's full-time job is not the bike shop.
Correct.
She's got a regular full-time job like most people. Plus she has a bike shop. Plus she decides to step up to be co-director with another person here in La Crosse of 906 Adventure Team, which how many kids are in this year?
130 kids. It sold out in 2 minutes.
So it sold out in 2 minutes, 130 kids. And when we say 130 kids, those are kindergartners to fifth graders.
And each of the 13 groups requires 3 coaches, volunteer coaches. So not only is Randy leading this, she's coordinating, 50 plus volunteers in all the teams, all these different pieces. And why do we have it? Because she wanted to make it happen. She's talking to Todd. She's probably going to hate this podcast because she doesn't like when we talk about the stuff that she does, because she doesn't do it for recognition. She does it for the community.
Mm-hmm.
She is out there like literally like leading a group and like doing all these different stuff. And so, yeah, she found a local person willing to financially support you have to kind of have like a little bit of a startup cost. Todd does an amazing job franchising 906. We get the money, we've got the leader, and it's just like, she's like, we're doing it. Bing, bang, boom. And we've got it. And, but she doesn't walk away, and Eric's out there leading a group, our mechanic Tossin is out there. Like, we are like all in on community stuff. And seeing the kids out on the bikes. I mean, my daughter does the, adventure club. She's been doing it for 3 years.
Wait, doesn't your son do it also?
So he is actually one of 2 interns that is, I don't know if Todd, I don't know if it was really designed for my son, but he's been on the NICA team. He's going to be a high schooler. He's going to be a freshman in high school, which is a little bit wild for me as you talk about us getting old. And so he and some other kids someplace else are the only 2 interns that Todd has allowed for 906. And so he's out there coaching as well. And then he is also signed up for the mini Margie this year. It's he said he's done the half epic a number of times. He said, "Oh, Dad, it's 21 miles. How bad could it be?" And, anyone who has participated or is aware of Margie events knows the last 21 miles is by far the hardest 20 miles. And so I'm pretty excited for that as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about the Margie at length on this through various episodes as well. And that is the worst place to put those miles because it's the end of every race.
Yes.
Whether you're doing the mini Margie, the half Margie, or the full Margie, or even the once every 5 years dumber idea Margie out and back.
Dumbest. We'll call that the dumbest.
Yeah.
Sorry,
you're doing the hardest miles at the end.
Yeah.
And it is not all uphill, but it gets to the point where like you don't actually want to go down something because that means you have to go back up something. It's not your typical.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a community organization. 906 is a community organization. It gives back. It gets kids off screens participating. When I was valet parking bikes last night, some of the 906 kids, you could tell because they have their nameplates on, and they're not allowed to have kickstands on their bikes for 906. And I'm trying to park the bikes. Obviously, if they have a kickstand, it's a little bit easier because we have limited, rack space. And so I see these kids, and I'm like, "Oh, you guys don't have a kickstand? What the heck? I have to hang your bike up." And they're like, "We're not allowed to have kickstands," because Todd just does such a good job that the rules are like clear and they're specific, and it's just such a great thing for the community. And I'm super stoked that we have it and that we continue to do that. So yeah, I actually don't do a lot with it because I don't need to, and I do enough other stuff, but I'm sure someday I will get roped into more because I love having that stuff happen. And at the end of the day, that's it, right? Like when people, you and I've talked about this for a long time, but like people will say, "Oh, that sounds cool," or "Why don't we have that?" or "They should do this." And if you want things to happen, you have to be you have to do it. So yeah.
Yeah. I always wrap up almost every show. I say almost because there's one or two that I don't ask this question to, but let's wrap this thing up with, and I know you've traveled a bunch. It's like your family vacations are bicycle vacations. That is your family vacations.
They really are. Yep.
What are the things that you look for in a trail community? And I always tell people to answer this literally as selfish as possible. You don't have to say the cliche things. Say the things that you specifically look for.
Man, that's such a good question. I love accessibility, and I don't think that's a cliche. I actually think so we didn't mountain bike when we bought our current house, and there were no trails at Gateway, and I almost think I lived too close to the trails because it goes straight up. There's like this, when they were building those trails, I was like, it's cute that they think they're going to put a trail here because I don't think that's even physically possible when you looked at this like spot of land. And it's just like 10 switchbacks just straight up. I love that. I love that I could get out on the trails, and I love that accessibility. When we travel, that's what we're looking for. We want to stay someplace where we can park our car and ride our bikes and not have to get out of the car. So, it is accessibility to the trails, but it's also accessibility to places to eat. It's accessibility to some groceries. It's accessibility to some entertainment, to some other things to do off the bike. You get a rainy day, you want to give the trails a chance to dry. It's nice when there's other fun things to do as well. I like all kinds of trails. I really do. When I first started, flow trails were like the dream because I was kind of a roadie, and I was like, these things are fun, but I don't have to be like as good. Today, I really don't care. I will pretty much go anywhere and ride anything. We normally go to Bentonville once, maybe twice a year. The kids love
Shoulder
it. The
seasons.
weather's good. Shoulder season's so good. But this spring we were lined up to go, and it was like supposed to be like 3 inches of rain in 3 days, and we were just
In Bentonville.
in Bentonville, and we were like, geez, like we had some family stuff, so we hadn't been there for a year, which is pretty atypical for us. And we were really excited to go, but I'm like, you guys, it just doesn't make sense, right? We're gonna go down there and like sit in this Airbnb and not ride trails. And so, kind of spur of the moment. I mean, literally like 2 days before we left, we canceled our Airbnb and we booked a place in Knoxville. And I was a little bit apprehensive because you know, we've done different destinations here. We've gone to Marquette, we've gone to Copper Harbor, we've gone to Cuyuna, but you sort of know what you're getting a little bit. And so Knoxville was good. It was probably better than I expected. But when I think of like, you know, your question, it's like we had to get in the car and drive, or we had to deal with traffic, and that kind of sucks. And so I think access points are just so huge for communities looking to build trails.
So you got to stay in South Knoxville.
Yeah.
For the trailside accommodations.
Yeah, we screwed up because I mean, we booked it 2 days before, so there are places that you can get that are closer. And again, I mean, if you're out there listening and you're like, I never really thought of Knoxville. I had never thought of Knoxville. The food was fantastic. The trails were super good. They're connected. I mean, it was like a really good destination. But like Duluth is another example where I think of like if you can stay somewhat close to the traverse, you can pretty much ride your bike to the different trail systems, and I think that's an awesome thing.
It is, and it's another thing that like Marquette has that.
Yep.
You know, it's IMBA's term, or IMBA's like tagline is more trails close to home, and we understand that it's not feasible for all communities to have that, but the more communities strive for that, the better it is for the community. You know, that's probably our number one ask for my day job. I am involved with trails, and that's one of our number one asks is like, how do we get trails into our trail, the center of town?
Yeah. Probably my second ever trip to Bentonville, we were at Kohler before it was developed to the level that it is today. It was a little bit more rough around the edges, and we ran into like a local homeowner, and we were like, how do you feel about this? Like being in your backyard, literally in your backyard. Thinking that like, because we sometimes meet resistance locally, and I'm sure you've seen that, right? Yeah. With
even
folks,
they do in Bentonville too.
Yeah. Yep. In different places. And so we were kind of like thinking this guy was going to be like, not loving it. And he's like, this is fantastic. I love it. I'm never going to ride these trails, but like, I don't bike at all, but my property values are up. I love seeing people. I love the community. I love all of it. And he was just like super excited. And it's like, that's the kind of thing too. I mean, we had a big resistance to our gateway trails. And
protesters.
Actual protesters.
I was blown away. Like I get protesting for social issues if that's your thing. What I don't understand is protesting against outdoor recreation.
It was wild. People are petitions. Like we were having. I mean, I almost kind of forgot about it. And then I'll look back at like a Facebook memory or something of like the things we had to do. We were printing shirts like to try and like stand up for trails. And then like the people who live there now are like, oh, I use this trail every day. I'm always out here hiking or like just like enjoying it. And yeah, so I don't know where I was going with that. I think accessibility. Yeah, trails close to home. Yep, for sure. Even if people don't think they're gonna like it, it's gonna get them outside. It's gonna give them that access as well, and they are gonna like it. So yeah, I think to re-summarize answering your question, that's the number one piece. Everything else I think comes to play. And you see it. If there are trails that are accessible near that trailhead, things are going to pop up. You're going to find restaurants. Like one of our favorite pizza places in Bentonville is like right off the edge of or Wright's Barbecue, right? Like these literally like restaurants that are not really near other stuff that are near the trailhead because of the number of people coming there for that. So
yeah. Well, Chris, a lot of community and a lot of events.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for all that you've done for our community too. I'm just Josh could edit this out later if he wants to, but he's been a key player, and I really think of that too. So if you're thinking about this for your community, I mean, I think events are part of the recipe. You have to have trails, you have to have some other pieces, but they really help. It's like the whole circle, right? You are not hosting an event, but if you had not worked on the trails, I wouldn't be able to host an event without that. And then I bring people and they see it, and it just all comes full circle, and it rolls. So thank you for all you've done for our community and that you're doing with this podcast as well. And thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Chris. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening. If you like what you've heard, please take the time to share these shows with others. Sharing these shows will help create awareness of both the guests who have taken the time to be on the show and the podcast series itself. Also, if you're new to the Trail Effect podcast,
check out our ever-expanding library of episodes. If you listen to the Trail Effect podcast on Apple or Spotify, please don't forget to leave a rating and review, as this is one of the best ways to show our support for the Trail Effect podcast. Also, don't forget to check out Cooley Creative at www.dojustsendit.com. For additional ways to help support the Trail Effect podcast, check out the affiliate links tab at the Trail Effect website, where you'll find links to Kettle Mountain Apparel, Worldwide Cyclery, and Trail One components. By using the affiliate links found at www.traileffectpodcast.com, a small commission will come back to the podcast, which will help keep this thing going. This podcast has been edited and produced by Evolution Trail Services. Thank you again for listening.